In exercise 10.7, we consider the case of Roller Industrial. And our task here is to develop a purchasing budget, or in other words, direct materials purchases budget for each quarter of 2014. The purchasing budget will follow from the production budget, and so this is why we have our information in columns B and C on production information for 2014 leading into 2015. Remember, the production information is going to be based on the sales budget. So the sales budget, it's imperative that we have good numbers in the sales budget, because the sales budget leads to informs production, and the production budget informs purchasing. So of all of these units that are presented here in column C, what we want to do is a bit of a translation. So each unit has 6 pounds of direct materials. And each of these pounds, so this is the cost per pound, is $7. So in other words, each of these units that are in column C translates to 6 multiplied by 7, or $42 material cost per unit. Now, a few other rules that we have in place here. In terms of the desired ending inventory, they have a rule of 15% of next, so 15% of next quarter's material requirement on hand at end of quarter. And then we're also given information that at the beginning of 2014, we had a balance, so beginning 2014 / ending 2013 materials balance. So in preparing this this budget, what I'd like to do is transform the data a bit. So work with this a little bit here. So we'll have our Roller Industrial direct materials purchases budget. And then what I would want to do is take these data that are presented in a column and copy, and then over here, either we can right click the mouse here, and then go into Paste Special, and under Paste Special we have Transpose. So I like to present this information in columns rather than rows. I think it's going to be a little bit easier to follow that way. So when we look at production units, then we can similarly widen this here, and we can take these production. Now, either we can, it's simple enough to just link up here individually. We could also do the transpose idea as well, but with 4 of these, it's kind of fast enough to do this. And then if we, for instance, we change any of these numbers, this will update if they're linked as such. If we just do copy and paste transpose, they won't update. So now we'll have our material cost per unit we can put in this table. And if we do that, then I guess we'll have to widen that a bit. And so what I'll do is put this dollar amount in here, lock that, and then copy this over. Now, it's really not imperative that we include this item in our table here, in our direct materials purchases budget, but I just, it's good to see the trace here to say, okay, well, we have 45,000 units multiplied by $42, so that gives us 1.89 million, and then copy these formula across. And as you know, if you copy it across and the cell's not wide enough, it will give you the pound sign, or what was formerly known as the pound sign. So this then gives us our materials needed for current or for desired production. Well, we're also told that we have the desired ending balance that follows a similar rule, and that is that we will have to take 15% of next quarter's material requirement on hand. So for first quarter, we would want 15%, lock that cell in here, and multiply that by the second quarter's desired materials requirement. So that means we take that 15% of 1.722 million, and that gives us what additional amount we want to have on hand at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. Copy this formula forward for the 3 quarters, and we see that we have this updated here in terms of each of these items considering the next quarter. Now we're presented with information for the first quarter 2015, and we probably could append that here at the end, but this would not be part of the 2014 budget, but it would be important to have this on hand so that we could similarly copy these formulas over so that when we make use of the 2015 number at the end of the fourth quarter, or for the fourth quarter purchasing, we see that we have 15% of that 1.974. So it's important to be forward-looking, but when we actually put together the table, that the items in column G will not appear on the table, but that calculation is certainly important in terms of coming up with our desired ending balance of materials. So now, as we've done in the production budget earlier, we'll sum these to make use of what we have on hand, so to speak. So we have our materials needs for each quarter or by quarter. But now what we have is what was on hand less our beginning inventory number. So similarly to each, for the second, so starting, we'll go back to the first quarter in a minute because it's a little bit different. But the second quarter's beginning inventory is the same as the first quarter's ending. So for the second, third, and fourth quarter, we just link back to the previous column, desired ending balance. The first quarter is somewhat different. I suspect we're not obeying the rule of 15%, but they give us a beginning balance to kind of get you started on the problem, so that's why we're linking there. So similarly, what we have is that we would take the needs by quarter less what was on hand at the beginning, and this gives us our required purchases. So we have 1.864, 1.772, 1.988, and 1.652 for each of these quarters. Now, it's important here that we, as we examine this, that we say, okay, notice there's some variation in terms of this by quarter. And in fact, we see that, this may be seasonal or cyclical in some measure, because see that the first quarter has 45,000 in 2014, 47,000 in 2015. But the second quarter drops, the third quarter increases, the fourth quarter drops again. So it could be that this is something that that we're going to have this variation in purchases, and we want to have enough on hand at the end of the quarter, but we don't want to just buy all these materials at once and really have them not be of use in a shorter future. So ultimately, the main takeaway here is that in the purchases budget, we necessarily consider the case of collecting the data by not only by the units, but also the dollar amount. And in particular, as we go up here we have we have to make sure that we have how many pounds of materials, how many yards of materials, how many gallons of materials, whatever the materials purchased are, how many of those are will be used in each unit of finished output. Multiply that by the cost per whatever it is, in this case per pound, and that gives us a material cost per unit, which is what we're looking at in the production budget, is units, not pounds. So we have to make that conversion in this number here, in dollar amount, and then we take a look at what was in the B, what we have as a desired for ending balances, add that to what the current production was in order to give us what our material needs are to have on hand. So what should our balance sheet account, raw materials balance sheet account look like? And then subtract whatever was at the beginning of each quarter. So in this way, we're able to, again, have the sales budget inform the production budget, inform the purchasing budget.